The other way we can do that is we can do lead scoring and say, okay, how engaged are they? And then they bubble to the top, and those are who you call first.
Hello, everybody. This is Ryan Anderson, and welcome to Annuity Fundamentals. Today, we have an amazing guest that's going to be talking to us. Her name is Shannon Filing. She is the president of the Transformation Group. And today, we're going to talk about something that is so critical, that is so important, and the thing about it is that it's not one of those super sexy things that we think about when it's trying to grow a business. And that is basically how to nurture our leads, how to go through and gain and manage new leads. That Shannon, your business focuses on basically three really key things, and that's marketing, having systems, outsourcing stuff, and basically kind of getting rid of the things that the business owner needs. Now, if I was a independent insurance agent and I'm a one-man band, I'm sitting at my kitchen table and I am the marketing department, I am the sales department, I am the compliance department, I am the complaint department, I'm everything. How can, as we move forward, can the Transformation Group help me grow my business and give me a better quality of life?
Yeah, so there's a couple key ways that we do that. I specialize in helping small businesses because I am a small business and I understand all those pain points. And so through that, I'm like, okay, two things. I've done marketing for years, still do that. But a lot of times I heard people say, I don't need marketing, I need time, or I need people, I need expertise. So you can certainly outsource a lot of those tasks, like incidentally, often are marketing or just administrative tasks that keep you in the office late and on the weekends. But what gets really exciting, and may I say, maybe a little sexy, is the automations of keeping leads nurtured, warm, informed. That education cycle is so big in a lot of businesses, and in particularly this one is there's so many questions that come up. And so being able to even answer those in a way and avenue that they're searching for them before they even make the call or you make the connection or they're ready to say yes to you. That's where automations and a little bit of that education marketing comes in.
Okay, well, tell me what that means here. So most of the agents that we go through and deal with, if it works something like this, that I've got a lead source of some kind, whether that is the carriers are sending me leads, whether that I am doing seminars, whether I am going through and I'm attending community events, but I'm just paying for lists, birthday lists, whatever it might be. I've got some sort of list that I am working from, that I am trying to convert that list into a sale, into a client. And there's obviously different levels of that. There's the cold list where just basically everybody who's got a birthday this month or 6 months from now, I need to start building on. Or the ones that I actually have met with or a referral from a client. I'm assuming you've got different processes and systems for each one of those. Walk me through something. How would you go through, if I'm a brand new agent, what would be the process of getting started? What kind of help me with that?
I would first ask, what are you doing now? Do you even have a CRM system for your leads? A lot of people will have them for their clients because they put them through a bid, if you will, right? They put them through some sort of program, but leads get neglected. They're working off of spreadsheets a lot of times, sometimes sticky notes. I mean, it's crazy some of the systems that I've seen. And what happens is the intent is there, but then it's like, oh gosh, I need to call Bob. I haven't touched base with him, in 3 months. Or we have an event, and that's great. You have someone sign up after the event, and then schedules don't align, and then they don't make their appointment. And then what happens? Mm-hmm. It becomes that incidental engagement that happened 3 months ago, and now you don't know how to get involved with them. But if we can put them through automation or lead nurturing that keeps you in front of them, keeps you valuable, offering up value, education, answering questions, and if we can do video on that, that is super great, because then they remember that moment that they first met you, or maybe they are used to what you look like, how you sound, what you've said, and they're like, oh, that's right. That's what I needed to talk to her about. And then they come back in, and we can do that through marketers are great at relabeling things, but drip campaigns, web chats, email marketing, all of those things that make sure that one time an engagement or even a cold engagement is nurtured until they consider and buy from you.
As you talked about systems and stuff like that, that's one of the things that Annuity Fundamentals is all about, is that we systematize things. That if you don't have a process, everything from your first appointment, how do you go through, what do you say, why do you say it, everything there needs to be, that words matter and we don't waste words. And one of the things about it is as I work with other agents and as I work with professionals, and I tell them, you just hit a real nerve of mine, and that is having a CRM. And one of the things about it, and I sit down with them, I say that, having a filing cabinet and an Excel spreadsheet is not a system. Right. It is the beginnings of a system. It is the data that we put into the system. But that's one of the critical things here as far as having something that, and I'd never thought about what you just said, and that is, a lot of people have got a system for their clients, but not for their leads.
Correct.
And how do we convert somebody from basically being a lead into a client? The CRM that I use, it's Lead Shop, and it's got a high-level backbone on it. And as we go through here, and as I meet people with at seminars is generally how I do most of my marketing, and I'm able to go through and I can break them down immediately to, these are the folks that signed up for the seminar that didn't show up. These are the folks that signed up for the seminar that did show up but did not book an appointment. And these are the ones that I booked an appointment with. So right there, I've spent a lot of money getting new leads. I've got 3 categories and 3 levels of engagement right from the get-go. And in that scenario, how would you handle that? So if you said, I came to you and said, okay, I've already got a CRM, I've already got this, and I can program the funnels, I can program all of that with it. How can I convert that into a more efficient process to make sure that I am getting the bang for the buck? Because those leads are thousands of dollars.
Yes, they are. Yeah. So first off, I want to start and go, if you're listening and you don't have a system, it is okay. So before we dive into what Ryan is saying, is we can start with a very fundamental system. And then what's great is you can build upon it. So to your point, Ryan, is you have things that's, you have tags, if you will, or you have categories that you can sort your list of. They attended, they booked a meeting, they did not show to the meeting, whatever it is, or the engagement. We can also do that. Say you have a whole database, you have 5,000 leads. We can put them in a CRM system, and then we can do a database re-engagement, and we can tag, are you interested in annuities? Are you interested in Medicare? Are you interested in, I don't even know, property and casualty, whatever you do in your firm. And when they click that interest level, it could re-tag them. So now with smart automations, we send them the content that they need. So that is one way. The other way we can do that is we can do lead scoring and say, okay, how engaged are they? And then they bubble to the top, and those are who you call first. So we can refine what type of content we follow up with them about. We can engage our sales staff if we have one, or ourselves equip with what they are ready to receive for information from us. So there's a multitude of things that we can do. I would just say, for people that are just starting out, let's just start with the system. Let's start with the system and allow that to work in a general way, and then we can refine it and make it more complicated, if you will, and serve up even directed content. And the other thing that I would say about this too is there is some work up front, but think about the continuity in your organization when this happens. If Susie leaves, you still have a system that is doing it. It doesn't leave when Susie leaves the door. If she moves on to a different opportunity. So it allows for a lot of stability in firms as well when you have this technology system laid out.
All right, so let me ask you, go ahead and do this. Now, you said there's a lot of work up front with this, and the things that you just described, because I've seen these for a lot of years as far as what kind of content do you want to have? What kind of information do you need to have? Where does that content come from? Where do they go through this? So if I am I'm an agent, I'm selling Medicare. So I've got a list of T65s, people that are going to be turning 65 over the next year. how do I come up with what to send them? Is that me creating that? Is that you creating that? Is that where does that come from? And then how often do I need to go through and refresh that information? I mean, Medicare updates every year, and I'm going to get another list next year, and another list next year, and another list next year. So if it's a true system, it's going to be perpetuating. I love what you said about how it's not person centric. It's kind of, I read a book here a while back. It says that, do you own a job or do you have a career, a company? And if you leave and the company fails, you've just owned your job. But if you if you can step away and the company continues to move forward, then you've built something. That's something amazing. It's not just you owning a job.
Yes.
So how do we get to that level? How do you go through and where does the content come from? And then how do you get to what you just described?
Yeah. Okay. So I will start with, you are really good at the double questions. I have to think about yeah. So one, where the content comes from, that is when, honestly, it works really well to work with marketers. That's what we do. We take the content and make it marketable. So I would sit with you and I would say, okay, Ryan, if you were to sit in front of me, what are the top 10 questions people have for you? Those 10 questions don't typically change a whole lot. They're general in nature. When do I need to make this decision? What should I consider? What if my prescriptions aren't covered? What if the plan changes? All of those things, right? So those general questions don't change a whole great deal. So let's solve those up front. Let's solve those up front with the content that we serve through our automations. And then when we direct them back to our website or specific pages, that's where you update the incidentals, the details that may change yearly. So your nurturing content shouldn't have to change a whole great deal. You keep that general and then you bring them back to the details. So then you don't have to worry about it being outdated.
Okay, I love that. Now, as I go through here, and I do a lot of training to help people do seminars, and whether those are seminars for Medicare, whether it's for Social Security, for estate planning, for financial services, long-term care, these are all seminars that we help agents do and put on. And a couple of the thoughts have been, and this is a long drawn out question is where I'm going with this, is that quite often that I want to resolve concerns before they become concerns. So as I'm going through and I'm talking about them, that I know that if somebody is here for an estate planning seminar, as a general rule, there has been some traumatic event in their life, something that has a family member has died, or a friend has gotten ill, and and they got better, or they didn't get better, but life has thrown something at them that says, I need to be prepared. This is an area of weakness in my life. Or Medicare, the same thing. I'm turning 65 in a year or 2 years or 3 months. I need to do something. And as we do the seminars that we go through, the idea here is that we build yourself up as the professional. So we want to talk about your credibility. And then we go through step by step by step by step. And we talk about common problems that people don't even know they have.
Right.
And as far as when we're talking about somebody, say with Medicare, well, do you know what an IRMA bracket is? As far as if you make too much money, that the cost for Medicare Part B is on a sliding scale based upon your income. Most people don't know about that, and they definitely don't know it's based off of your income from 2 years ago. So when you sold your house and then moved last year and you're starting Medicare and everything's great, next year when you get this massive bill that's going to be on a monthly basis for a year and you have no idea it's coming, that these are things that we want to talk about during the seminar, which makes you an expert and all on that. But coming back to the question here, again, the idea here is so I can build myself as an expert face to face. How do I do that through the automations?
Yeah, so we talk about that oftentimes as one-to-many. Here we have a one-to-one conversation, but really it's one-to-many. Whoever watches this podcast, we are educating them all on the same topic. And this is no different than in your business, is how can we replicate these general concerns? I will back up because I did attend one of Ryan's seminars. And one of the things, it wasn't a pain point to me, but it became a fear of mine. When you shared the story of, we had to have all your siblings were scattered all over.
Oh, yeah.
You have this DocuSign signed to make medical decisions for a loved one. And then the delay in time to get the care due to the ramifications of what needs to be done in the legal sense. I have not faced that, but I'm like, woo, that's interesting to me. And how do we learn often? Through stories. And I would say anybody listening to this podcast has sat across from the table with enough clients to go, hey, I had a client that faced this, right? Those stories resonate. And then it's like, we help them with this, this, and this. Or we've heard the fear of, oh, you got to sell all your asset within 3 years or you won't get Medicaid to pay for anything. I don't know if that's true. I'm not of that age, but I've heard it over and over again. So we don't have the details, but make yourself in the position of authority and expertise that builds trust like this. So that's how we do that through that automations. We can drip videos into email. Mm-hmm. We can drive them back to a podcast where you're mm-hmm. addressing this stuff and building trust. And when you're giving value or education, expertise, that's when people go, well, why would I work with anyone else? He knows his stuff. She knows her stuff. And that's the whole thought of education marketing right now, and particularly in this space.
You said something that I absolutely love, and I truly and firmly believe is story sell. I've trained a lot of agents over the last 15 years, and is I sat down and when I think back to my very first one, I was a brand new agent, and I don't want to say that I was forced into the insurance business, but I was an unwilling participant. How's that? It was, I mean, and a lot of people don't realize this about me, but I was sitting there, I was a vice president of hospitality programs for a computer company, and they had basically if it was a publicly traded company, it was me, and I had a bunch of people that worked for me in my division. And then all of a sudden, all of us, me and the 30 guys that worked for me, were gone. And I was like, what the heck? And it was about that fast. And so then I went through, and over the next 2 years, I took a couple of different things. I was wanting to get into a different industry. And I basically came down, and I had 3 opportunities. One was in the insurance world. One was a corporate trainer for a large a computer organization. And the third one was a corporate trainer for a nationwide grocery store. Well, the grocery store thing, I didn't get the job, sadly, but at the time I was upset, but I'm actually okay with it now. And I had gotten the job at the large computer company, which I lived in the Philippines when I was younger, and this was managing all their call centers in the Philippines and on the Western U.S., which meant I would have had to go to the Philippines for several times a year, which I was really excited about. And they said, yes, we'll take it. We're going to go through. We've got a couple more pieces of paperwork. And between, yes, we'll get you, and the paperwork signing, they had a hiring freeze, and we had an awkward phone call that you're not that guy anymore. So then, so then I got into the insurance world, and I started that. And about 4 or 5 months later, they came back to me and said, okay, we're ready to bring you on. And I was like, I'm good now, which at the time was a hard decision because I was still starving and trying to tell my wife with 5 small kids at home, I just turned down a 6-figure job so that I could hopefully make more here. Don't think that was not a fun phone call. But the thing about it is that my manager, his name was James Case, great guy, great mentor, and really taught me things in the industry. He said, story sell. And he said that if you don't have your own stories, and you will get them very quickly in this business, you need to borrow others. And as I train folks, I tell them the exact same thing because it's so true. Stories sell. And the emotion of, okay, so you're a small business person, and I bet if you were to go through and in part of your sales process and part of working with clients, okay, I can relate to these things because I live it, and that's how you start this. You live it every day. Mm-hmm. Now, what is the timeline? What is the timeline? Give me a ballpark on the cost, something like that for, again, trying to go through and take some of these things off my plates, where I can start to see the systems in place and working, and start to see results from it. Kind of walk through me with that.
Yeah. So typically you have a software, a CRM of sorts, that you will invest in.
This episode is actually brought to us by a software that is sponsoring us. It is leadshop.org. That is the CRM that we use, and they manage both clients and leads. But everything we're talking about today can be done on leadshop.org. And they are also the sponsor of this episode. So I'm sorry, Shannon, keep going there. Got to
No,
put a
so
plug
that's
in for the
great.
guys paying the bills.
That's
So,
awesome. So we were talking CRM. Okay, Lead Shop. There's a lot of them out there. So Lead Shop would work, or there's multiple ones. I would look for something that serves your needs now and you can grow into and is affordable. Usually, they're going to be $200 to $700 a month, depending on the bells and whistles that you want. Right.
okay.
And then the other thing that I would say is you're going to have setup. And again, we're working long hours, weekends, we're serving our clients. Outsource that, outsource the setup. Find an expert. Experts will work within their system, and then there's some that will actually learn your system and set it up. Typically, really good systems with automations, there's not a whole lot of difference. There's nuances, right? But the concept, we just need to work within those confines. What is important is to think about the process, how people will dissect the information, get the information, what channels are we going to use? And marketers are really, really good at that, is going, okay, well, if I were a new lead and I'm outside your organization, so I can look at it from basically a cold lead, like what would I need to buy? So we can come in with that outside perspective and build that content. And we can also usually build your systems.
All right, well, that's fantastic. Well, you said a couple of things here. So I want to come back to Lead Shop for just a second. Theirs is actually only $99 a month, which is amazing. Really good stuff. But I was attending it was actually Cody Askin's 8% Nation in Springfield, Missouri here a year ago or so. And when I was there, I met another organization that talked about virtual assistants. And that's what their business was offshore virtual assistants to take care of a lot of the administrative stuff. And I was visiting with them and I was thinking, okay, I'm looking for podcast guests. I am looking for ways to improve my own business and on and on. And so I like to go to the trade shows to visit with everybody to kind of see what's going on. And as I sat down and I visited with him, I thought, well, this is going to be intriguing. And then I got to know him a little bit more, and we actually had him on the podcast. It's Stacy Sutter with Summit VA Solutions, it's the company. And he told us about his, explained to us this outsourcing thing. And all of a sudden, like, well, that sounds cool. So we went through and we got ourselves a virtual assistant. And it was wonderful and it was great. And in a matter of about 3 weeks, we realized we had a need for a second virtual assistant. And that was not quite a year ago. And these guys, it's amazing. All of the stuff that is time consuming, that is tedious, that needs to be done, that has to be stay up on top of it, from calling my people that are going to be attending my seminars, to reaching out to them after the seminars, to going through and getting some of the paperwork that has to be done on the day-to-day basis. We just give it to them. And it happens. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I'm not sitting out in my office till 10 o'clock at night doing the things that I hate to do.
Yep.
I've got somebody who is much better at it, much more efficient at it, and my business is growing.
It's their focus. I mean, let's be real. We tend to be our own bottlenecks because we got to review that. We've got to get the details to so-and-so so they can do it. We tend to be our own bottlenecks. So outsourcing is a great way to do that. You mentioned something, and there's 2 ways to outsource, is to bring someone on that has a level of expertise. It could be video editing. It could be marketing. It could be doing your website. There is another way, this is how we do it, is what I'd heard from small businesses is, I don't have enough hours to do this, or it's not consistent, or what happens when my CRM is set up? Then I got to have someone run it, or I have all these things. What we do with our outsourcing is you come into our fold and now you get my whole team. So I take and I say, okay, marketing tasks go to this person, tech tasks go to this person, writing goes to this person. So you don't have to worry about that. And it allows a lot of flexibility and flex in your business because you get the whole team of expertise. I have someone who does billing for a lot of service industries because they can't get their billing out. So I go ahead and I tap my talented people with the tasks that are needed, but it allows my clients to not worry about, oh, I got to have 5 things done and I have to hire 5 VAs.
And that's actually a really great thing to do. And I think that coming back to one of the positive outcomes from COVID was a lot of folks out there are now used to doing business virtually, kind of like what we're doing here.
Broke a
And
barrier. Yeah.
it really did that. And so, I mean, I travel all over the country helping training agents and working with agents. And I was in Anchorage, Alaska last week. And the week before that, I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So there's a kind of a dichotomy for you. But the thing about it is, as I was talking to these folks, I had the same conversation multiple times on literally both sides of the country. And that is, if you need help with something, we're here to talk to you today about, it was Medicare in one, and it was estate planning in another, and it was finance in another client. But if you need help with Social Security, well, I've got a Social Security expert. They live in Texas. If you need help with, life insurance and long-term care, I've got one of those. They're in St. George, Utah. If you need help with financial services, I've got one of those. Okay, she's in Kennewick, Washington. And if you need help, but fill in the blank and kind of go from there. And one of the things about this is that it's not like what it used to be where, okay, if I need an attorney, I want to make sure he's in my same town. If I need a CPA, they have to be in my same town.
Yeah.
That individuals, the more skilled folks, that society is accepting the out and about, that it's okay to have somebody far away. Now, I personally like the fact of having somebody in the same town. And so when I work with an agent like the one in Anchorage, it's like, okay, you're my Anchorage person. You need to go to the client and have the meeting with them. But so you're going to be on Zoom sitting there twiddling your thumbs while they're talking to the CPA until they're comfortable talking to that whoever it is out in the other state, until they get that system they come up on it. Now, what do you do with agents and individuals that we're talking about automations, we're talking about outsourcing, which is delegation.
Yes.
And delegation is the one thing, in my opinion, you correct me if I'm wrong because you're the expert in this, that keeps small businesses small.
Yes.
They're unwilling to let go of stuff.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. So I was just going to say is we as small business agents, owners, all of those things, we have to adapt. We have to be really comfortable with change. And sometimes that's just a change in how we do things, right? Do we outsource and let that go? Or no one can do it as well as I can. And chances are they might do it better. And we need to be comfortable with that as well, right? But I tell people too, is we have to be able to adapt change. How we did things before is not how we have to do things now. And two is we have to challenge our own mindsets at that. We have to be okay with maybe it being done different, and we have to manage outcomes. But nonetheless, outsourced or in our office, we have to at least train and manage. We have to take our systems or our information and give it to someone so then they can do the task. And you think as that's a small pain point. When we think about not changing and doing the same thing over and over again, you will never be able to grow your business because you're capped at time. And if we can take that moment and go, okay, I need to train them and I need to give them the relevant information. I need to make time to go, okay, 2 hours a week, I am going to have a Zoom call with Shannon, tell her what she needs to know so she can keep building my automation. She can keep building my content. And when that's done, it becomes a lot easier because I've learned. So that's whether you're going to train someone in your office or outside your office, you're still going to have to train them. And it is well worth your time. And incidentally, if you put automations and systems in place, that information doesn't leave when so-and-so leaves. So you've got a lot more stability. So you've multiplied your time by just making that upfront investment.
I love what you just said. I have sat down with I've got a couple of business partners that help me with this. Kylie was one of them. She's also one of the hosts on this podcast. She's not with us today. But then we've got Angelique, who handles the back end things and does a lot of the training and stuff with us. And when we're having meetings, the conversation is, we should be able to do this and this. And fill in the blank. We're going to add this or we're going to make this modification. And then my immediate question is, who's going to do it? Who's got the bandwidth to add this very worthwhile process that equates to 10 more hours a week?
Yep.
Who's going to do that? Of the people that are on our team, who can handle that with what they're currently doing? Or what are we going to jettison off of their schedule to give them the ability to do that? What becomes a priority? And as we're going through and you're doing that, that is a huge thing. Shannon, thank you so much for visiting with us today. Our time's almost over here. So if an agent wants to reach out and find you, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I made it really simple for this podcast is just go to talkwithshannon.com. And you will get my information. You can book with me. If you have specific questions, I'm pretty easygoing. So just use me as a resource to bounce some ideas off of me. If we are a good fit to partner with your agency, I would be glad to do so. But just go talkwithshannon.com and you can reach me right there.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure we include that link in the bottom. As always, thank you so much for joining us today with Annuity Fundamentals. Again, this episode was brought to us by LeadShop. Their website is leadshop.org, your one-stop shop for all things that are CRM, whether it has to do with finding new clients, whether it has to finding new leads, and whether it has to do with managing the existing leads and clients you have, or using them for advertising to fill a room for seminar. That's who I use exclusively, and they do an amazing job. Shannon, thank you so much. And for everybody else, please, if you haven't already done it, click like and subscribe below, and we'll go ahead and see you next time.